Today in 1942, Anne Frank was given a diary by her parents for her 13th birthday. This diary now exists, obviously in its edited format, as Anne Frank, the Diary of a Young Girl. So many of us know the story of Anne Frank and are very aware of the diary, but I still have many friends who actually haven't read the Diary of a Young Girl, and this is my video to tell them to read it, I guess. And not just to tell me to read it, because I hate when somebody tells me to read something, but I really want to talk about my love of this book and my kind of almost growing up reading this book and almost growing up with Anne in very, very, very different circumstances, many, many years later, obviously. I was given the Diary of a Young Girl, not this original copy, not this copy, for I think my 13th birthday actually, a month later, which is in July, and I started reading it, and I've gone back to this book so many times. I would read it as Anne was writing it, if that makes any sense. For example, if one of the diary extracts things is on the Thursday, 12th November, I would try and read that on the 12th of November. I wouldn't read anything until the date where she made her next entry, for example, on Tuesday the 17th of November. I think it's very hard to read a diary like the Diary of a Young Girl and not think about the ending, not thinking that this young girl died at the hands of the Nazis at the Holocaust. But for me, this was so much more than a diary of a young girl in the Holocaust. Those kind of settings and that really horrendous circumstances intensify everything. But for me, reading this, it was so much about a young girl growing up and her insecurities and her struggle to kind of become herself, and obviously her struggles within having to hide in an annex. And there's been a lot of kind of controversy recently about a parent in America wanting maybe to remove it from the syllabus or something like that for the pornographic content. And I think that is stupid, really, really stupid. One, I don't agree with banning books unless they are planning to kill somebody or something like that. But for me, growing up is about your body changing, about you changing, and to deny that for children, it just seems really bizarre because it's what's going on in their bodies. And I think it should be read at school, and I think if you have a child or you know a child who is at the same age, I would really suggest them to read it because it is about growing up, and obviously growing up in horrendous conditions, but it just reminds me that there is good in humanity, which is really bizarre because of obviously what happened to Anne Frank. It is so honest because obviously it's not, it is a diary that was just for her, it was private, and the honesty I think is really lovely because I read it at a similar age and obviously in very, very different circumstances and having hardly no of the troubles that Anne had to go through. But the honesty about growing up and about having feelings and about having jealousy and being chatty, and that's not about growing up, that's just her personality, but it was mine too. You know, being jealous about her sister and admiring her sister and having a difficult relationship with her mother, and at times I completely identified with that. I just think it's such an important book, it's such an important diary, it's such an important document to read. And she shows human courage and provides really funny and very comical commentary over the people she's living with. And I really love that you can really feel her develop as a writer as well, which makes it even more heartbreaking when the diary just stops and when it says those words, Anne's diary ends here, it breaks your heart because, I mean, she's a really promising writer, and I mean, she was innocent. The very last page, which is obviously heartbreaking because it was the last thing that's ever been included before obviously she was taken, I'm just going to skip a couple of bits until about here. I just can't keep it up anymore, because when everybody starts hovering over me, I get cross and then sad, and then finally end up turning my heart inside out, the bad part on the outside and the good part on the inside, and keep trying to find a way to become what I'd like to be and what I could be if only there were no other people in the world. Yours, Anne M. Frank. It is powerful, it is moving, it is thoughtful, it is really good. And I think that even though it's not like the best, I think that it's important for it to be continued, to be read throughout generations, and I have no doubt that it will continue to be read, but I think it needs to be read in schools because there is a lot of things that children can relate to it. I certainly did, which is really bizarre to say, but yeah, it's beautiful in its own way.